I haven't run a case study in a minute, so this should be fun. Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Benjamin, CEO and founder at Bolt Deals, and today I'm back with you guys with another case study. By the way, if you guys follow me on Instagram, you're going to see that one of our clients, Brent here, who we're going to be going over today, has been absolutely murdering it, right? So a little context, Brent, when he first came to us, he is actually a salesman. He sells roofs door to door, right? But on the side, he's also doing wholesaling real estate, right? So we're going to dive a little bit about his context, where he came from, how he actually sells his deals, and how he's able to close so many deals while allocating so little time to this business, right? So as always, getting back to it, the result, $127,000 in just 8 weeks with Google PPC. We're going to be going over the intro, the context of where he came from, where he was at, what he was doing before partnering with us here at Bolt Deals, the proof and the results. So we're going to dive into his campaign, dive into the results, break down each metric, what it means, what average KPI is. I'm also going to be talking about our PPC Profit Flywheel, right? So how do we take a PPC ad and turn it into profit with wholesaling real estate, specifically how we do with our clients. Next thing I want to do is go through the strategy, why it works, what to do versus what not to do, and why so many wholesalers fail with agencies and how to steer away from that and actually almost guarantee success, right? And finally, takeaways as well as action items for you to implement into your business. That way you get similar, if not even better results. So let's dive straight in. Brett here, before working with us, actually even hopping on a call with us, he was partnering with another agency that really all they did was just set up the campaigns and make him run it himself. And a lot of the investors that I speak to, their job is to close deals, buy houses, wholesale, and whatever the case is, not run ads, right? So the way that I looked at it is like most investors that I speak to, they want to flip houses. They want to do what they do best, not sit here and figure out how to use the ad manager, optimize campaigns, remove search terms, things like that, which is why he tried to hire us to make sure that we made it happen and actually got him results, right? So on the iPad, let's go straight to it. Let's go over some of the metrics that we've gotten so far, right? So 45 conversions, that's how many leads we generated, right? That's how Google classifies it. Cost per conversion is $300, right? We're gonna go over into his markets in a second, but basically he's doing a lot wholesaling specifically in the Dallas and or Fort Worth market. So I guess it's strictly local. So he's pretty local instead of the Dallas market. Funny thing, he's actually coming over today, or excuse me, not today, this Saturday, to do a podcast. So you guys are going to see him very, very soon. Next thing is click-through rate. So what is click-through rate? Click-through rate, the way Google defines it, or I guess any marketing platform defines it, is out of the people that see your ad, what percentage of them actually click on the ad, right? So if 100 people see your ad and 5 people click, you have a 5% click-through rate, right? So for us, KPI here is anything above 1.5%. We're closer to 3. We're almost closer to 3, so we're almost double that, which is obviously above KPI. Cost per click is relatively low, actually, for the Dallas market, right? But obviously, we've been running for almost 2 months now, so it's gone down a little bit due to economies at scale, algorithm getting better, things of that sort, right? And conversion rate. This is something I really want to highlight. And the way that Google defines conversion rate is not how many leads actually convert into contract. That's separate. That's a sales metric. But here specifically in the marketing metric is out of the people that actually click on your ad, right? How many of them become a lead, right? So this is the conversion rate within the ad and or landing page. And the two biggest things that influence is the messaging on your ad, right? So how do you script your ad, the ad copy that people are actually clicking on, and how quality is your landing page, and is it set up correctly, right? Most of the investors that I speak to, the way they run their landing pages is very generic, right? They buy a template or get a software, and they get these templates and they try to run it to them, which is absolutely not the best thing to do in my personal opinion. Hence their conversion rates are so low and their cost per lead is so high, right? And worst thing is lead quality is not even there. So the way that we run our landing pages, we have two main objectives. The first one is to position our clients like Brett as a number one go-to whole buyer within their market, right? And the second thing is to capture the information we need, right? So our landing page is set up in 3 main steps, right? We have our survey opt-in, we have our property information page, and then we have a calendar booking page where leads can actually schedule an appointment directly with either you or the acquisitions manager to directly get a cash offer. And the best part is on the first step, the survey opt-in, That's really the four main pillars, right? It's motivation, timeline, property, a little bit about their property, and then asking price. Is it flexible? Is it listed with a realtor? Things like that. And the second page, we go off of that, right? So they'll give us a little bit of information, like 1 or 2 questions on the front end about their property. But the second one is we're asking about the roof, their garage, their basement, square footage, things of that sort. So we even go even more granular. What in the property needs to be replaced, things of that sort, right? So whatever a seller is willing to go through all of that and schedule an appointment, I mean, you can't really get a warmer lead than that, which is why our clients' lead to contract rate is so high, because the average is 1 out of 8 for us and our clients using Google PPC, right? We have clients at 1 out of 4, we have clients at 1 out of 12, but the average is 1 out of 8. Meaning for every 8 leads that we send you, you're getting at least 1 deal. Now, if we do the numbers here, let's just say the average cost per lead is $200, right? You multiply that by 8, that's $1,600 to even $2,000 cost per deal, right? And if your average assignment fee is, let's just say $20,000 on the low end, you're above a 10x ROAS, right? So this is exactly how, whenever we sit down, reverse engineer the numbers, see the metrics and projections, and map it out, we can see what results we're going to get before we actually spend our money to make that happen. So that's one thing that I like to focus a lot on, specifically when I'm first having a conversation with an investor who's looking to partner with us and looking to work with us. Because if these numbers don't make sense, this partnership's not going to work out. So I like to set the expectation up front, gives us the opportunity to underpromise and overdeliver. But with that said, let's go back into the campaign. Brent's metrics, ad spend is close to almost $14,000. Let's make this red. 45 leads generated, as you see up here. Platform is Google PPC. The biggest thing between Google PPC and Facebook ads, which is something that most people are very familiar with, is the strategy, right? Specifically how Google and Facebook work, right? Facebook is an impression-based platform, so you're paying to be on other people's feeds, right? As opposed to Google, it's more of a bidding system where you're auctioning. You win auctions, you lose auctions, whatever the case is, in order to earn that click or win that click over your competitors. So whenever you guys hear that PPC is more expensive, it absolutely is. However, it is also an intent-based marketing platform, as opposed to Facebook being disruptive or in-your-face marketing platform. So as you're scrolling, you're getting disrupted by one of their ads. Same thing like YouTube, right? I see this whole YouTube craze going on, and I think it's really funny because it's basically Facebook 2.0, right? You're going to get a good amount of leads. I'm very confident you're going to get them at a low cost, but is the quality of the lead and the conversion rates as well as return on ad spend going to be as high as Google? Probably not. So with that said, 45 leads, 6 contracts so far. If we look at the cost per contract with Brent here, let's just do quick math. 45 divided by 6, he's 1 out of 8, like I said, which is perfectly within KPI. Total projected assignment fees is $130,000. You subtract 40-ish thousand from that, and that's how much has actually closed and funded. Current ROAS is a little over 9x, meaning for every dollar he's putting in with us, he's getting upwards of $9.40 out of that, right? So the question is, if you were getting those results, how many times would you print money? How many times would you put more money and force more money into that system? The answer should be a lot. So if you stick to the end, I'm going to walk you through exactly how we scale our results with inbound marketing. That way we're getting exponential returns without diminishing returns, right? One of the things that I always highlight with inbound marketing is that results with inbound marketing are exponential. It's not linear, right? So linear is you put 10,000 in, you get 5 deals, and people have the expectation that if you spend $20,000, you can get 10 deals. That's not exactly how inbound marketing works. In theory, it makes sense, but results should be linear because the longer you run it, you should have more leads in your pipeline. You should be following up with those leads. So leads from month 1 is going to close month 4, etc. Right? So I'm going to walk you through that. Average assignment fee is $25,000. To me, if your average assignment fee is anything less than $20,000, in my personal opinion, there's something going on that's not right. Right? Maybe you're not aggressive enough on getting the properties at a deep enough discount, or you're not selling at the right price to your buyers, or you're not marketing it up enough. Daily ad spend is $200 a day. For quick math, that's about $6,000 per month in ad spend. So one thing that really frustrates me is that there are agencies out there that will tell wholesalers that you can run PPC for $100 a day or even $150 per day. You absolutely can if you're going nationwide and you want everything under the sun, right? Because the way Google or even Facebook works is that the more markets you go into, you give Facebook or Google the opportunity to reach more people. Your CPMs or cost to reach 1,000 people, it decreases. And as a result, your cost per click, your cost per lead, your cost per deal, it all decreases, but your return on ad eventually, if you know what you're doing, it goes up. But the issue with that is that not many investors are capable of displaying deals nationwide, right? And if you are, hit me up because I will print you so much money, you're going to feel it's illegal, right? So going back to the point, if you're running PPC and spending less than $6,000 per month or $200 per day, I would just hold off on it for now because it is my personal opinion and ideally in your best interest to save a little bit more money, close an extra deal or two, have the money to actually set yourself in a best possible situation in order to win, because otherwise you're just burning money, right? So my favorite analogy, and I know you guys have heard this 1,000 times, is, if you cold call 10 people a day, how long is it going to take for you to close the deal? The answer is forever. But if you cold call 300 people a day, it's going to be a little bit quicker. Why? Because it's volume. It's all the numbers, right? Scaling with inbound marketing, specifically on PPC or even Facebook, it's not rocket science, right? It's economics and simple division and subtraction, right? But most people don't get that, which is why they lose money. But the entire goal of this video is to make sure that doesn't happen. Cost per lead, we said is within KPI. Another thing that's really interesting to me is this craze over getting the lowest cost per click, right? If a client comes to me and wants me to get him $5 leads, I can get you $5 leads. But the question is, how many of them are actually going to close, right? The answer is, if they're that cheap, none of them are going to close, right? So one thing I want to emphasize is, instead of focusing on achieving the lowest cost per lead, focus on getting a realistic cost per lead that actually closes, right? Because at the end of the day, we're not optimizing for the most amount of leads. We're optimizing for the most amount of closed deals and profits and or return on ad spend, right? In my personal opinion, I think it's a bigger flex if an investor could say, hey, I'm paying $1,000 for a lead and we are extremely, extremely profitable, right? Because that tells me how good their operation is. And regardless of how good marketing is, they are going to win regardless. And to me, those are the best clients to work with. Now, do we have clients that are generating $1,000 leads? Absolutely not, because I'd be fired. But we have clients that are anywhere from $300 to even $500 cost per lead. For example, if you're in Los Angeles, right? And they can convert 1 out of every 4, 1 out of every 5 leads. That's the average cost per deal of anywhere from $2,000 to even $3,000 per deal. But if your average assignment fee in Los Angeles is 35 grand, you're still above a 10x ROAS. So if you zoom out and look at the whole picture, it looks better. Because if I were to go to you, I'm like, hey man, or ma'am, for the ladies watching this, I am at a $4,000 or $5,000 cost per deal. You would freak out. But I've told you I'm at 11x ROAS. You'd be like, oh shit, how do I do that? So to me, look at the full context before judging too quickly, is my personal opinion. Cost per contract for him is $2,400. He's at a 9.4 X ROAS. He's happy. Cost per click, we already discussed. Landing page conversion rate. I mean, average KPI is 8 to 10. We're at 20. We even have some clients at 30% conversion rates on their landing pages. But it's what happens when you've been doing this for the last half a decade. Click-through rate, we already discussed as well. So let's talk about the PPC Profit Flywheel, right? The way it works is it always starts with traffic, right? Most people that I speak to, they have this, it's really interesting to me as well, but they say they have a website and their goal is to generate leads with their website. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, how are you driving traffic to it? They're like, oh, what do you mean? I just have my website out there and whoever clicks. I'm like, well, that's not exactly how it works, right? And the best analogy that I have is like, if you put a Louis Vuitton store in the middle of the desert, do you think you're going to get sales out of that? But if you put the contrary, if you put a McDonald's in the middle of Beverly Hills where there's hundreds of thousands of visitors per day, is that place going to get sales, right? The answer is yes. Less so about the product, more so because there's traffic and you have more room, more cushion to make errors and or a not as good product, right? So if you have a website and there's no traffic towards it and you're expecting to get leads, I guess pray a little harder, right? Second thing is after, once you have traffic, you got to convert it into a lead, right? Now, one thing I want to highlight on this is that there's leads and then there's MQLs, or marketing qualified leads, right? These two are two completely different things, because you can generate all the leads in the world. You can get realtors, you can get agents, you can get other wholesalers to make their trash deals. That's not really going to make you money, right? An MQL is a marketing qualified lead. And the way I define that is by a seller who actually needs to sell their property as opposed to just wanting to sell their property. More so, they're willing to sell the property as is for cash and willing to close in 60 days or less. That to me is what I identify as a marketing qualified lead. And we're going to talk about how we send that data back to Google via Conversions API in order to train their algorithm, more importantly, their tag manager, also known as a pixel, on how to get us more of these leads, right? So a lot of high-level stuff that I'm really excited to talk to you guys about today. Sales process. I mean, if you suck at sales, I can generate you the best leads in the world that are laydowns. And if you can't close an open door, I don't really know what to tell you, right? Another thing about that, and we'll talk about how Brent closes so well in not as much time as everybody else, is because of partner, right? So the partner's in a few ways, right? He has a dispo partner. His name is Christopher. Great guy. Chris Crump is his tag. Easy Dispo Chris, I think is what it is on Instagram. So massive shout out to him. I've had the privilege of talking to him, and we're going to be cooking some things up together, which I'm really, really excited about. But he's basically the guy behind dispoing all of Brent's deals, so he could just do what he does best, which is acquisitions, right? Brent is like a natural born salesman. So that's something that Brent does that obviously helps him out a lot. And then from there, once Brent closes the deals, we have profits. From there, we reevaluate the data, which is like what we're doing right now, to see what's working, what's not. That way we can make necessary optimizations and then we can scale, right? More importantly, like I mentioned before, we want to scale horizontally as opposed to vertically. And I'm going to talk about what that means in a second. And obviously the goal is to scale, maintaining ROAS, minimizing diminishing returns. So as I mentioned, let's talk about why they're so successful. Obviously, it's because they have us running their marketing, right? So yeah, there's a little cheat code. The way we run our PPC strategy, I want to highlight, is a little bit different in a few ways, right? It all starts with their keywords. Most agencies, and this is something that frustrates me a little bit, I guess to give context, there's 3 types of keywords. There's broad match, phrase match, and exact match keywords, right? Broad match are where you're going to get a lot of volume, but lead quality is going to be trash. Phrase match is in the middle. Exact match is, as it sounds, exactly what somebody's typing in the search bar, right? So one of the things that separates us is that we focus heavily on phrase match and exact match keywords because these are the highest intent clicks that become higher intent leads, right? So to me, that's what matters the most. And then from there, we drive those clicks to a landing page with 2 of the objectives that I mentioned before. Position you as the go-to home buyer within your market, so we want to separate you from your competition. Second one is get the information we need in order to set up the acquisition manager to succeed, right? And when it comes to scaling, there's horizontal versus vertical scaling. Meaning, so the best way to make it is vertical scaling, the way I define it, is you have a campaign, it's working well, and you just double the budget in a month, right? The challenge with that is that the campaign will most likely crash and you're placing all your bets on one campaign. The question I would have is then, okay, what if that campaign dies? What happens to the business? You're fucked, right? So the way we go about it when it comes to scaling is we want to go horizontal scaling. And what I mean by that is we look at our testing campaign, which is typically the one that we always start off with, and we want to segment the keywords and the ads that work best, right? So in regards to the ads, which is just words, the way that we run our ads is we focus on targeting specific motivations, calling out specific motivations, foreclosures, divorces, relocations, can't make their mortgage payments, and then we put that in our ad copy. So we want to segment those, see what the winning keywords are, see what the winning ads are, and then we want to put them into our scaling campaign, right? And in our scaling campaign, obviously we'll have a higher budget on that because we're trying to scale. We're trying to push the limits a bit. And 95% of the time, your scaling campaign is going to get you to a higher ROAS than your testing campaign because it's literally just a stack of all the winners, right? And then going back to your your testing campaign, you want to test new variations and new ad groups of different theme keywords, things of that sort, different ads to see more of what's working. So what else can you try that is working? And then from there, you just rinse and repeat the cycle, right? It's easier said than done. I try to simplify it as easy as possible. That way you guys would understand. Another thing that made Brent extremely successful is that he's an amazing closer, right? I mean, you hand him leads and he closes. He's at 1 out of 8. Obviously, he's doing very well. And finally, he has a dispo partner, Easy Dispo Chris right here, who I've spoken to, who dispos all the deals for him, I believe, in Dallas. So if you are a real estate investor and you need somebody to display your deals, run your comps, things like that, shout out to Chris, because he's very good at what he does. And he makes me look good, right? Because if these deals, without Chris, these are just contracts and nobody really gets paid off of contracts, right? So Brent, one of the things we love about Brett, he highlights, shouts us out on Instagram, which is, one of the traits that make a great client. So massive shout out to you, Brent, and look forward to seeing you this weekend, right? Now we talked about the success, but how do we guarantee failure with PPC, right? And you may be wondering, why would I want to even guarantee failure? The reason why I want to talk about this is it's in inverse thinking. So you know what you need to do on the opposite side to actually succeed. So if I tell you don't do this, you should know to do this instead, right? Common sense opposites, right? So first thing to do if you want to guarantee failure with PPC is flying blind, right? You have no idea what markets you want to do. More so, you don't have any proficiency or knowledge in those markets because every market is obviously different. You don't know how much you're going to spend, right? If you're spending $50, $100, $150 per day, you don't even have enough results or budget to get a deal. For example, if you're spending $150 per day, that's about $4,500 per month. If we know that the average cost per deal, let's just say it's $3,000, $3,500, you might get one deal per month, right? And that's a very strong might. And and me personally, that's not a bet I would take, especially on one of our clients' money. So my personal rule of thumb, spend a little bit more, right? Because worst case, you'll get one deal. So that's the way that I look at it. And understanding projections, right? What is the average conversion rate on your current landing page? If it's not as good as ours and it's only 10%, fine. Tweak your metrics, run your projections off of that. Do you know what the average cost per click is within your market? Is it $50 or is it in Atlanta where it's like $120, $150 per click, right? And can you afford to make those numbers work based off your average assignment fee? Because let's just say the average cost per deal at the end of the day is $3,000, $3,500, and your average assignment fee is $8,000. You're barely at a 3x ROAS. You're not even at a 3x ROAS, right? And are those numbers are okay with, right? And I guess adding on to that, there's another, caveat to it. The question I would have is, why is your average assignment fee so low, right? Is it because you're doing cold calling and text blasting, or is it because you're partnered with agents right now where you have to split profits or JV with other wholesalers? If so, if you felt like you went direct to seller and you have sellers who are basically begging you to take up their property, do you feel like your average assignment fees would be higher? Do you feel like you have the resources, have the connections to generate a higher assignment fee or a bigger assignment fee? The answer is yes. Okay, great. Make it work, right? The next thing is running ads with a poor sales process and incorrect expectations, right? If you can't close an open door, regardless who sends you the leads or where the leads come from, you're just not going to make money, right? So it all starts with you leveling up your skill set, because a lead at the end of the day is just somebody you can contact. You have to have that conversation with the seller and convert them into a deal, right? It's easier said than done, but once you master it, it becomes laydowns. And then incorrect expectations. Mainly, this is probably because of other influencers or even other agencies, right? Hey, I guarantee you'll close a deal in 3 weeks. Just because you saw some guy on a Facebook group or YouTube Live closing the first lead that he bought doesn't mean you are as well. Now, I hope that happens for you, and I hope that for all of our clients, but just being realistic, I always like to give a campaign 4 to 6 weeks to look at what's in the pipeline. Right now, obviously, we're monitoring every day on the front end KPIs, monitoring the conversations, quality of them, but you have to zoom out a little as opposed to just focusing on something so narrow in a specific timeline. And with inbound marketing, my rule of thumb is if you can't commit to it for 3 to 4 months, just don't do it at all, right? Because the average sales cycle with inbound marketing is 90 days, right? 90 to even 4 months on the higher end. And if you can't give it a full sales cycle, a cash conversion cycle, in order to determine whether or not it's going to work, just don't do it, right? This is what I tell every single one of our clients, which is why our client retention is so high and our clients stay with us for the long term, right? Another thing to guarantee yourself failure is a bad marketing partner, right? So what makes a good marketing partner? And obviously, I'm pretty biased. I know I will destroy every other PPC agency out there. The first one is no results and track record. I mean, this is common sense. If they don't generate results in your market, or someone that is in a similar position as you, don't work with them, right? Like, what do you think is going to happen, right? Anyways, second thing is they're unable to reverse engineer the numbers and walk you through the metrics. like I said, this is just a numbers game. It's inputs, outputs, right? It's numbers. It's simple numbers. You can literally do it in a simple spreadsheet. And if they're not able to sit down and run some projections with you to show you what you could get and just saying, hey, this is probably what you're going to get and good luck, probably not the right guy for you. If they're over-promising, right? If they're going to tell you you're going to get a deal in the first 2 weeks, could you? Absolutely, if you know what you're doing. But is that an expectation that you want to set? No, they're just trying to get the sale. Like, wake up, people. Finally, specialist versus generalist, right? If the PPC person is doing it for 7 different industries, HVAC, roofing, med spas, like all this stuff and wholesaling or wholesalers, they're generous, right? Would you want somebody that's good at one thing, like the best in the world at one thing, or mediocre at a bunch of things, right? The answer should be good at one thing because marketing is the bloodline of your business. And if you give it to a generalist and it doesn't work out, don't be surprised. And then services, right? If they're doing all these different services, social media management, content creation, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, ads, LinkedIn even, like, come on, right? They're generalists. Find somebody that focuses on one thing and is the best in the world at it. Pay them a little bit more, obviously, and results will reflect, right? So with that said, let's talk about our takeaways. One of the biggest things we've noticed about Brent that made him successful is that he understood his strengths, he stuck to them, and he found great partners to do the rest. The perfect example is how he does all the acquisitions, and he has Chris does all the dispositions, right? So it keeps him from having to learn another skill set for now, right? Obviously, he's building his network, he's building a relationship, he's making everybody look good, right? Second thing is if you're not spending enough, don't do it at all. You're spending $150 a day, you're spending $100 a day on PPC, save your money, just don't do it, right? When things are working, it's time to double down. When things aren't, cut it and pivot before it's too late. One of the things that Brent realized is when he worked with this other agency and it's not working, he stopped and he pivoted to us, right? But when things are working, we're about to double down right now. How can we scale him to $100,000 per month consistently with almost 80% profit margins, right? If not higher. Finally, profit is the breath of fresh air. It's the one metric that shows you how efficient your business is, right? Most people talk about revenue and glamorize over it, or even how many deals per month you're closing, and how much volume are you doing. But at the end of the day, what really matters is profit, right? And or net free cash flow, which is how much money we can take outside of the business and we go blow it on whatever we want, right? So that's our case study of how I took one of our clients, Brent, from zero to $127,000 in 8 weeks. If you enjoyed this video and got some value out of it, first thing I ask is to actually execute on it, right? There was a quote that I actually put on my Instagram yesterday that I heard from a podcast where it's I was listening to a Tony Robbins podcast. If you guys can see it, but it says failure is feedback and knowledge when applied is power, right? So if something's not working, you learned that, okay, this marketing channel or this person on your team is not working. From there, you take that feedback and you know, okay, SMS does not work and cold calling doesn't work for what I'm trying to achieve. And then you take that knowledge and actually apply it, because knowledge in your head fundamentally doesn't do anything. It's just taking up brain space. And then from there, actually execute on that information in order to drive a result. Because otherwise, you stay stuck on the same spot and you didn't execute. Why are you surprised, right? So actually take action on the things you've learned. Hopefully you learned something. And if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, comment, as well as subscribe. Finally, if you are a wholesaler closing, not contracting, closing at least 3 or more deals per month, and you're in a position where you have $8,000 to $10,000 per month to invest and scale your business with Google PPC, specifically with inbound marketing, and you're looking for a better partner because the person you're with is not happy, click the link in the description. Let's hop on a call. I'd love to sit down and walk you through exactly how we got results for not only Brent, some of our other clients, and exactly how we're going to get results for you and your business with your numbers in your market as well. So again, my name is Benjamin. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like the video, comment any questions or concerns you have, as well as subscribe. With that in mind, have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.